If I could go back 2 years and tell my younger self just 10 things before I started bulking, this is what I wish I would have known. So if you're someone who's trying to build muscle or gain weight in a healthy way, then knowing these 10 things combined is going to put you ahead of 99% of people who are trying to do the same. The first thing I wish I knew came from a situation that might sound familiar to you. So it was day one of me starting my bulk. I was sat in the kitchen. I decided, yeah, I'm gonna start bulking, so I just need to eat more. But then I just felt so ridiculously full. It was just too much food, and I didn't know how the heck I was supposed to get enough calories in to actually see any progress. But the thing I wish I knew was that bulking isn't just about eating more. You also need to take into account your exercise as well as the actual foods that you're choosing to put in your body. Because think about it, choosing to eat 1,000 calories of salad is going to be a lot harder to get in than choosing to eat 1,000 calories of peanut butter, because the volume is so different. At that point, I didn't realize that you could get calories in with healthier foods. I thought it was either eat healthy, like salads and stuff, or get more calories by eating junk food like McDonald's every day. But the foods I should have been focusing on were high protein and nutrient dense foods. So foods that had a lower volume but you could fit a lot more calories in it. Things like shakes, smoothies, protein oatmeal. But there's also a lot of simple food swaps that I easily could have made that I just didn't, and it meant that the first few months of my bulk were just so hard because I was struggling to fit enough food in. But when I discovered some of these food swaps, it was an absolute game changer, and I finally didn't feel so disgusting all the time, and it was just like food was more enjoyable again. So some of the things that really helped me out were like switching low-fat yogurt to Greek yogurt, normal fruit to dried fruit, and stuff like that. But I'll put a little list on screen now so you can pause the video and check that out. The next thing I wish I knew when I started probably could have doubled my results if I'd done it from the get-go, and that's tracking my calories. I know tracking calories isn't for everyone, so I just want to put that out there. But for me personally, if I had been tracking calories from the beginning, then it would make sure that I wasn't under-eating. I was actually eating enough to see the results that I wanted from both my diet and my training. In addition to that, if you are someone who finds it easy to overeat, so you end up gaining a bit more excess fat than you would like, tracking your calories can be really useful because it means that you'll stay on target and you'll be able to progress on your bulk more effectively. Another thing you can do, which I personally do now if you want to get really into it, is actually track your macros. Your macros are your macronutrients, so the main components of your diet: carbs, fats, and protein. And tracking your macros can be a useful tool in helping you if you've got specific goals for the body composition you want to reach. So if you want to gain more muscle mass, then you're going to have a certain distribution of your carbs, fats, and proteins to get to that goal. It's not essential you track your macros, but one thing I would definitely recommend is make sure you know how many calories you're eating and roughly how much protein you're eating. That brings me on to the next thing I wish I would have known, and that is protein is so much more important than you think it is. To put it simply for you, if you didn't have any protein in your diet at all, then you're not going to build any muscle, because the amino acids in protein are the building blocks to build new muscle tissue. There's 9 essential amino acids that your body needs, with leucine being the most important one in terms of muscle growth. But I've got a whole deep dive video telling you exactly how much protein you should be eating, so I'll link that video above. In most cases though, aiming for about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is a good ballpark figure to aim for. And you can get this protein from whole food sources like lean meats, dairy, fish, or even plant-based protein sources like tofu. But one thing that really changed the game for me was using protein powders, because I could literally just add them to a shake, which meant that the volume was smaller. I was still getting my protein in, but not feeling as full afterwards. And it's just so convenient to grab and go. Protein powder has literally been a lifesaver. The amount of high quality protein you can get in the protein powder is so much cheaper if you get it as a powder than if you were to get the same amount from, say, meat or fish. The next thing I wish I knew that probably would have helped with the mental side of things when I started is that muscle growth takes time. Like, it is a slow process. You're not just gonna build the booty overnight. Sadly, that's not how it works. I wish it was, but it's not. I know this is quite a niche example, but think about it as if you were knitting a scarf. You've got your ball of wool, and that is your food, your calories, your protein. And as you're knitting your scarf, the actual scarf is the new muscle tissue that you're building. It takes time for you to knit that scarf. It takes stitch by stitch, and eventually you will have the finished product. It doesn't matter how many balls of wool you have, you can only knit that scarf at a certain rate. And it's the same thing with your body and building new muscle tissue. It doesn't matter how many calories and how much protein you eat, your body can only make so much new muscle tissue in a certain amount of time. And any of those excess calories that your body has left over is just going to be stored as fat, because fat is easier and faster to make than muscle mass. So this is again why tracking your calories and knowing how much you actually need to eat is so important, because it can help you minimize your excess fat gain and maximize the amount of muscle mass you can gain. But the next thing I wish I knew is a really common struggle that a lot of people have actually asked me about, and it's something that I was concerned about as well when I was bulking, and still to an extent, like since I'm further into my bulk, it's now more obvious. But you need to remember that when you're bulking, you're going to be gaining weight and you will gain some fat mass, but that's okay. When I started bulking, I was super lean, like skinny lean, and I'd been that way for years. So the thought of actually gaining, like on purpose, felt really weird because my body hadn't really been that way for so long. But a lot of that fear is so much more obvious at the start of your bulk because you don't know what's going to happen. It's really the fear of the unknown. And when you start eating more, you're suddenly scared that everything that you're eating is just going to go straight to fat mass and you're not going to build any muscle at all. That is not going to happen if your training and your nutrition and your recovery is on point. Honestly, we tend to overestimate how fast our body can change. Yes, it will depend a lot on the individual and your genetics and all that stuff, but your body's not, like, if you eat an extra 1000 calories every single day for a week, your body's not going to change that much. Personally, I've been lean bulking for over a year now, and a lot of people still think I'm super lean. Now, I do have a lot more body fat than I had when I started, and that's completely normal and completely okay. So a lot of that fear of excess fat gain, especially at the start of your bulk, is all in our heads. You're only going to get the results you want if you actually commit to the process. And another really important thing to remember is that if you do gain excess fat, then you can easily lose that at the end of your bulking phase by going into a short calorie deficit. All of the changes that happen to your body during your bulking phase can easily be reversed, whether that's losing fat mass but also losing muscle mass, because if you just stop going to the gym and stop lifting weights or moving completely, then you're going to lose muscle mass. It's not permanent, and I think a lot of us tend to forget that. That brings me on to the next thing I wish I knew, which is all to do with training, because if you're not doing the right workouts or the right style of training, then you're not going to build muscle or get the results you want. If the only exercise you're doing to build muscle is running, that is not going to build much muscle. You need to be doing some form of weightlifting or resistance training. Now, you don't have to do loads of training by any means. You can literally see results with just 2 resistance training workouts per week. Studies have shown that on average, per muscle group, the amount of times that you need to train it for the most optimal muscle growth is 3 times a week. So that's really 3 full body sessions per week. I'm not saying that's the best training plan, especially not for everyone, but if you're short on time, this can be a really good option to go for. I've actually made a whole load of free workout programs that you can get in the description. The big mistake I made when I started training to build muscle was I trained way too much. Like, when I started, I was training every single day. And that was not good. And I'll get on to why that was not good in a minute. But the way I approach my training now is I've split those full body workouts up so I focus on specific muscle groups for each session. So currently I'm doing 3 lower body days and 2 upper body days per week. And the lower body days are focusing on different parts of lower body. So I've got a glute and hamstrings day, I've got a quads day, and I've got basically an everything leg day. So I can shift the emphasis on what I'm training on different days to allow different muscle groups more time to recover. You want to leave around 48 hours before you train the same muscle group again. This has been shown in most cases to be the ideal amount of recovery time to allow your muscles to adapt and grow as a response to your training. When you're in the gym and you're lifting weights, you're actually tearing down your muscle fibers. So it's the recovery time in between your sessions that's where your muscles actually build back up and grow. So if you're training the same muscle group the day after you just trained it really hard, then chances are that muscle has not recovered fully. So you're just going to be breaking it down more. So the muscle's not actually going to have a chance to grow. That brings me on to the next thing that I wish I knew when I started, was that recovery is so crucial. Your muscles don't grow in the gym. No matter how much burn you feel, that is not your muscles growing. Your muscle grows outside the gym. In the times where you're resting and recovering and when you're getting good sleep, the importance of sleep. If there was one thing I could go back and change, it would be how I approach my sleep. Getting good quality sleep isn't just about making you feel more rested so you have more energy to push harder in your workouts. It actually has a massive effect on your hormones and stuff as well. So it will directly affect your body's ability to actually build new muscle tissue, as well as how easily your body stores fat and your overall body composition. There are so many amazing benefits to sleep that I don't even have time to go into right now. But if you guys want another video on that, let me know, because I'm someone who's like so obsessed with sleep that I will research it at 11:30 p.m. and then not get sleep because I'm researching sleep. But yeah, let me know if you want that, because I can make it happen. Next thing I wish I knew is that consistency is so much better than perfection. You don't have to eat perfectly every single day. You don't have to have the perfect gym session every single day to be able to bulk effectively. What's more important is that you stay consistent in the long run, because ultimately, the long run is what gets you the results. If you stick to it for a week, that's great. But if you fall off at the end of 1 week, then you've not built muscle in that time, so what was the point? You may not have even gained any weight at all in that time. Even though I was pretty consistent, I was being consistent with the wrong things. So if I had the right things in place and I was consistent with the right things, then my progress would have shot up. That's actually one of the main reasons I made this channel in the first place, so that you guys wouldn't be stuck where 2 years ago Sophie was stuck at. So if you want to be unstuck, subscribe. This is the next thing I wish I knew about sooner. Staying hydrated is so overlooked. Like, water is so overlooked, but it's crucial for your muscles' function, their ability to recover, and your digestion as well. So staying hydrated helps boost your energy, helps your body perform more optimally, will help you lift heavier in the gym, and will also help with you eating more food. On average, it's usually recommended to get about 2 to 4 liters of water per day, depending on the person. But actually, just thinking about it, there's 3 things that really helped me to make sure I was getting enough water in. Sometimes I do struggle when I forget to do one of these 3 things, and I can tell, like, my energy's lower, I'm a bit more moody, I'm gonna be honest. But the first one is an absolute non-negotiable. I always have like a full glass of water as soon as I wake up in the morning. This one is massive. Like, it's bigger than my head. Like, it's the size of my head. Overnight, your body gets really dehydrated because obviously you're not drinking any water. So it's a good idea to rehydrate straight away in the morning. And personally, it makes me feel a lot more energized. Another thing that helped me was getting a water bottle with like the markings on it, so I know how much I've drunk throughout the day. And the third thing is actually just getting a big glass. I'm actually someone who also loves tea, so since we're moving closer to winter, I'm going to be drinking a lot of cups of tea. Like, even in summer, I drink a lot of cups of tea. That's something that's been really helpful for me, either leaving a glass or a mug or something like that just out so I can grab water and just get it easily. Next thing I wish I'd done when I started my bulk is actually gone into it with a plan. Because I didn't go into it with a plan. I was just like, I'm going to eat more, I'm going to bulk indefinitely. And that's really not a good idea, because if you just go into it with no distinct endpoint, then you'll tend to get all up in your head. Going back to the previous point, if you're someone who's concerned about gaining excess fat, then not having a distinct endpoint is just gonna make that fear worse. So when you start your bulk from the get-go, you should have a distinct endpoint set in place. This can be like 2 months or so down the line, but having that distinct endpoint there will help you relax into your bulk a bit more, because you know that you're gonna be able to get out of it at some point. I didn't have that. I was just like, I'm gonna bulk forever, because I was that skinny. I was like, okay, something has to change here. The amount of time that each individual person spends bulking will be very specific to them and how well their body responds to caloric surplus, how their body composition's looking, and stuff like that. Like, I've been bulking for a long time because I find it hard to put on muscle mass. But I'm also using the lean bulking approach, so I started with a small calorie surplus. And through that approach, I'm slowly increasing my calories in small increments of like 100 to 300 calories. And that means that I'm able to build the most muscle mass possible while minimizing excess fat mass. But when you reach the endpoint you've decided on, you've really got 3 options. The first one, if you're happy with where your body composition's at, then you can just start eating at maintenance and your weight will stay the same. The second one is you might decide that you actually want to keep bulking, so you can just keep bulking. And the third one is you can eat at maintenance for a little bit and then go into a cutting phase. So you're removing that layer of excess fat to sort of shred down a little bit and reveal some of the muscle that you've built underneath. As a coach, I wouldn't recommend going straight from your bulking phase into a cutting phase because you want to give your body a little bit of time to adapt to your calorie adjustments before you go straight into a calorie deficit. That's the approach I'm going to be using at the end of my bulk, but I've got a while left of the bulk to go, so we're not quite there yet. But if you are at that stage and you want to lose fat and get shredded in a sustainable way, then I've already made a video for you, so check it out in the description. The one thing I wish I had though, like from the very start of my bulking journey, was a complete guide just telling me exactly what to do and how to do it. Because I didn't have that, and there was so much trial and error that held me back for many months. But after years of studying and getting qualifications and actually learning about bulking, I've made a whole guide for you guys. Essentially, it takes you through the whole process of bulking from the very start to how to find your calories, calculate your macros, how to progress on your bulk, and also how to troubleshoot any problems that might come up, and how to transition out of your bulk when you reach the end of it. There's literally everything I know in that guide, and I poured so much into it, so if you guys want it, I'll link that below as well. But as someone who started from really skinny, there were some things that I was kind of doing subconsciously that held me back, honestly, for the longest time. So if you're starting from the same place, you need to watch this video next. It would also mean a lot if you could comment one thing that you wish you knew when you started bulking in the comments, because I'm sure it would help anyone reading the comments. Or if you are reading the comments, write one question that you want to have answered about bulking, because I replied to all my comments. Go check. Appreciate you so much. Subscribe and I'll see you there.